The mainstream media have suddenly taken an interest in the UFO phenomenon, beyond ridiculing it, that is. This seems strange, so much so that some now joke, quote, "I used to believe in aliens before the government told me they were real," close quote. In recent years, the term UAP, Unidentified Anomalous Phenomenon, has become more popular. According to some commentators, it replaces UFO and Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon because it also reflects submerged and transmedium objects, and probably also because of the stigma that still attaches to the term UFO. Occasionally, the military refers to UAP as fast walkers, as opposed to slow walkers, satellites. It's an emotive subject, of course, not least because the majority of interested parties seem to fall into two broad camps, the credulous and the outright cynical. For the former, UFOs and aliens are a free variable that explains almost every mystery. Many in this camp will tell you that extraterrestrial visitors built everything from Stonehenge to the pyramids, that they've manipulated human DNA, the missing link, and that a lot of rock art depicts ancient aliens. The more cynical, meanwhile, tend to dismiss the subject matter out of hand. Both views seem less than plausible to the genuine skeptic, however. It is important to understand that the philosophical derivation of the term skepticism means to doubt certainty. Pseudo-skeptics, by contrast, are quick to ridicule most alternative views as either crackpot or conspiratorial. As it turns out, the electric universe can shed some light on this complex phenomenon, while neither supporting nor decrying it. Belief either way is probably best left to the individual. Although the EU paradigm can provide better explanations for many of the phenomena attributed to UFOs, it doesn't preclude alien visitation. In fact, it can accommodate many ideas dismissed by orthodox science, while not resting on them. Moreover, from a plasma perspective, a connected, living universe, we might expect to see our own galaxy, let alone the wider universe, teeming with life. Quote, "If we are alone in the universe, it's an awful waste of space," close quote, Carl Sagan. The rejectionist argument against FTL, faster than light travel. The talking heads typically paraded on television will tell us that alien visitation is nigh impossible and has probably never happened. They also think we might be alone in the Milky Way. However, while hubris always tends towards certainty, the history of science teaches caution. Quote, "The idea of space travel is utter bilge," close quote. That's Richard Woolley, the Royal Astronomer, speaking to Time magazine in 1956. The leading rejectionist argument is based on Einstein's theory of special relativity, which holds that light speed is the upper speed limit of the universe. Distances between stars range from more than 4 light-years to the Alpha Centauri star system, 100,000 light-years across the Milky Way, and millions of light-years between galaxies. These facts, on the face of it, seem incompatible with the notion of alien visitation. Challenging this, quantum entanglement, spooky action at a distance, has been repeatedly verified. A particle can know something about another instantaneously over a vast distance, apparently violating the light speed barrier. Does this hint at the possibility of FTL, faster than light speed travel? The Disclosure Project. Headed up by Dr. Stephen Greer, the Disclosure Project has been running since 1993. He is joined by numerous scientists and military figures, many of them senior, who contend that the deep state, shadow government, has procured and back-engineered extraterrestrial craft, and that they work with extra-biological or alien entities at secret bases, mostly in the US. Greer also claims that cost-effective and clean energy technology is being suppressed by corporate interests and unaccountable power, the military-industrial complex, albeit under the auspices of national security. Technology that could otherwise benefit humanity as a whole. Quote, "We now have the technology to take ET home," close quote. Attributed to Ben Rich, Lockheed Skunk Works, 1993. Rich is known as the father of stealth. Of particular interest to the electric universe are the propulsion mechanisms of the alleged craft. It is claimed that they operate on an electrogravitic basis, although the exact physics remains unclear. In this US citizen hearing, UFOs, Science and Technology, Session 19, Greer and his cohorts take questions from a political panel. Interestingly, at 1 hour and 8 minutes, Thomas Malone, PhD, states that gravitational mass and inertial mass are not the same thing, contrary to Einstein's principle of equivalence. He posits that inertial mass is essentially an electromagnetic phenomenon. Potentially, this means that, if mass and gravity can effectively be manipulated, the speed of light is no obstacle, although this would not necessarily facilitate time travel. Light speed is likened to the speed of sound in this respect. If the universe has an absolute time, then time travel isn't possible even if light can be outpaced and the universe is a coherent system. The zero-point energy mentioned also has much in common with the ether of classical physics, which was cast aside when Einsteinian physics took the helm. Between 1 hour and 7 and 1 hour and 9 minutes in the citizen hearing, it is also claimed that popular science remains in the dark about what is known in secretive black projects, and, regardless, that orthodox science is, quote, opposed to anything that would violate its classical laws of physics, close quote. Significantly, it is stated that, quote, the laws of physics need to be rewritten, close quote. Well, again, no disagreement there from an electric universe perspective. The EU has long protested redundant ideology. This hearing was held in 2013. 10 years later, they seem to have made progress with their UFO-UAP disclosure, at least, given recent mainstream media reporting. Mainstream physics, meanwhile, appears to be stuck in the dark ages. The dark matter and dark energy age, some might say. There is another side to all this, though, it should probably be noted. Some conspiracy theorists claim the deep state is planning a fake alien invasion with a view to ushering in a new world order under the guise of a fight against a common cause. They refer to this as Project Bluebeam. Contrarily, Greer argues extraterrestrials are very real, spiritually as well as technologically advanced, and concerned for our welfare. Ufology has never lacked infighting and controversy, that much is certain. Quote, two possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe or we are not. Both are equally terrifying. Close quote, Arthur C. Clarke. Coincidences and conspiracies. The moon is an enigma. Although 400 times smaller than the sun, it is 400 times closer to the Earth. This makes solar eclipses possible. It's an interesting coincidence. There are still more strange things about the moon. For example, when Apollo 12 deliberately crashed the ascent stage of its lunar module onto the surface, NASA reported that the moon rang like a bell for almost 1 hour. This led to some speculating it might be hollow, perhaps accounting for its low density, which in turn led to others claiming that the moon is an artificial construct, perhaps from where an alien race can observe us. Yeah, that one is a bit of a leap. Quote, the lunar orbiter experiments had vastly improved knowledge of the moon's gravitational field and indicated the frightening possibility that the moon might be hollow. Close quote. Dr. Sean C. Solomon, Professor of Earth and Planetary Science, Columbia University. To support claims of alien bases on the dark side of the moon, reports of light seen moving across the surface have been cited, and there are indeed credible sources for these. However, electromagnetic effects can also explain some of these mysterious moving lights, in addition to most of the mysterious surface structures. The electrical vortices or dust devils, dusty plasmas, seen on the moon and Mars surprised the mainstream. They are nonetheless expected in the electric universe model because of insufficient moisture in their atmospheres to provide an intermediate electrical path from the ionosphere to the surface through normal lightning. When in glow or arc mode, these electrical vortices may appear as moving lights from afar. Lights in the sky. Closer to home, many mysterious lights bear an uncanny resemblance to plasmas in the lab. Not all of them, but a good many. These have already been discussed in previous Thunderbolts episodes, so no more than a brief run-over is required. Ball lightning and St. Elmo's fire, for example, are two well-documented enigmas. Although dismissed as fantasy for many years, they are now widely accepted and almost certainly plasma-related. Telluric currents, electricity in the ground, may give rise to the strange lights in the sky that precede earthquakes, while spectacular lightning is known to accompany some volcanic eruptions. Although many plasma phenomena can be fleeting and unpredictable, they are nonetheless well documented. The Valley of Hesdalen in Norway is famous for its enigmatic light shows that look a lot like those typically attributed to UAP. The rock in the valley has a high crystalline and quartz content. Such rock is known to produce intense charge densities under strain. In other words, the ionization of the local air doubtless contributes in large part to these impressive displays. The north of Norway is also a good vantage point for viewing the auroras. More than a century ago, the famous Norwegian scientist Christian Bjerkeland sparked controversy when he demonstrated that they were powered by electrical currents emitted by the sun. Now accepted as fact, the notion was initially laughed at. The auroras very often produce spiralling and lifelike patterns in the sky. No doubt the ancients interpreted these as the dragons and serpents common in myth and legend, especially if intensified auroras, perhaps resulting from solar storms, were visible the world over. Several leading plasma scientists and mythologists contend this was the case. Quote, "It would not be too extravagant to state that the principal medium for the stories of creation was auroral light." Close quote. Milton Bernard Zeisman, Let There Be Lights. Planetary scars. Orthodox science is at a loss to provide any coherent or consistent hypothesis for many of the enigmatic features on our neighbouring planets. While this leaves the door open to exotic ideas, including alien structures, many of these scars and mysterious surface features have more mundane, if unconventional, explanations. They have also been recreated in the laboratory. If we take a look at our moon's surface, the craters are nearly all flat-bottomed and roughly the same depth regardless of size. Most of them are almost perfectly circular. Many of the craters overlap without damaging the symmetry of those that went before, and they all appear to have been impacted from 90 degrees above. How can the impact hypothesis explain this? You would expect impacting material to arrive from a variety of angles, not directly from overhead each time. Brian J. Ford, an amateur astronomer, argued the case for cosmic electrical discharge more than 50 years ago. The British journal Spaceflight published his work on January 7, 1965. In his laboratory experiments, Ford used spark machining apparatus to reproduce some of the most puzzling lunar features, including craters with central peaks, small craters perched on the high rims of larger craters, and crater chains. He also observed that the ratio of large to small craters on the Moon matched the ratio seen in electrical arcing. Plasmas and petroglyphs. Leading plasma physicist Anthony Perrott was surprised, to say the least, when several images were presented to him by comparative mythologist David Talbot during a chance meeting. Perrott, based at Los Alamos National Laboratory, had not seen anything similar outside a classified environment. The pictures were of petroglyphs, rock carvings that are common worldwide, although he wasn't aware of their existence.
My first introduction to petroglyphs was by David Talbot. I went to a meeting of his by accident and learned something about what they were doing, and then he showed me some pictures, and I looked at the pictures, and I said, "Where did you get these pictures?" Because I had never seen them outside of an unclassified environment, to tell you the truth. And they're on rocks. They're on rocks. Where are these rocks stored? What vault? It's got these rocks. And I was kind of, what am I going to do now? And he said, "Oh no, they're all over. They're petroglyphs. They're all over the place." And I was stunned. Having worked in what's called high energy density plasmas, high energy density in nuclear physics, I was stunned that these pictures, apparently thousands of years old, preceded what we'd only been recording for about 2 years with our new facilities. It cost a lot of money.
Perrott was inspired to conduct several field trips around the globe, thus inadvertently becoming an expert on plasma mythology in addition to plasma physics. The term plasma mythology was coined by mythologist Rens van der Sluis, who accompanied Perrot on some of the trips and conducted several on his own. Most of the petroglyphs in question take on an abstract form. Regular viewers will already be familiar with the ubiquitous stickman motif. This peer-reviewed paper on petroglyphs in antiquity goes into some detail. Many of the features are unique to high-energy plasmas. In addition to the stickman, elaborations on the theme are often interpreted as evidence for ancient aliens. Most of them bear the classic signatures of intense plasmas, as per the Perrot paper. Among other characteristics, the location and orientation of petroglyphs are also significant. Additionally, plasma columns tend to filament into 28 or 56 individual Bjerkeland currents, both in space and the laboratory. The 28 and 56-fold symmetry of objects is commonplace in antiquity. They range worldwide from geoglyphs, stone rings, megaliths, and other constructs to concentrical petroglyphs. The most famous 56-fold symmetric megalith is probably Stonehenge in Wiltshire, UK. There are 56 original marker Aubrey holes. In short, there are more than just the visual similarities to consider when it comes to plasma phenomena. The ancient alien idea can be traced back to Zecharia Sitchin and Eric von Daniken, who interpreted terms like Anunnaki and Elohim to mean gods who from heaven to earth came. Advocates of this hypothesis assert that these gods were aliens with advanced technology, which was somehow misrepresented and misunderstood by our ancestors, despite their remarkable astronomical knowledge. Well, full marks for creativity. Granted, there are many mysteries from the myth-making epoch, but evidence for ancient aliens remains tenuous at very best. Ancient alien advocates are also fond of interpreting any circle around the head of such figures as a space helmet, be it a halo, headdress, crown, or spiral pattern. The latter in particular is another classic plasma signature. The thunderbolts of the gods. One of the most recognizable yet enigmatic symbols is that of the cosmic thunderbolt. Varying Greek representations of thunderbolts are pictured at top, with electrical discharges, plasmas in the laboratory, stylized for clarity, below. I would suggest that some mental gymnastics are required to dismiss these striking visual similarities as merely coincidental. Although widespread the world over, few scholars and scientists ever pause to wonder about this ancient fascination. Here is one conventional academic take. Quote, "It should be admitted that all of these thunder weapons, Indian, Hittite and Greek, are variations of the same basic form, a form that really looks nothing like the thunderbolt." Close quote. R. Miller, Iconographic Links Between Indic and West Asian Storm Guards, 2016. It is interesting that while Miller notes the visual similarities across different cultures and grasps their association with lightning, thunderstorms, he is unaware that these thunderbolt morphologies are more or less identical to laboratory plasmas. Some advocates of the alien hypothesis interpret these symbols as evidence for advanced alien weaponry. Again, a more down-to-earth explanation is at hand. If the ancient skywatchers witnessed spectacular electrical phenomena in the heavens, this would account for the recurring theme. More questions than answers. Numerous well-documented enigmas remain, including UAP performing gravity-defying maneuvers. Besides ET, theories abound to account for these, from interdimensional beings to time travelers and more. Who knows for sure? Quote, "There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy." Close quote. William Shakespeare. I do know, however, that plasma phenomena can account for many anomalies often chalked up to UAP. They can also provide insights into a lot of myth and legend. I'm certainly not dismissing the whole alien thing, and I'm anxious not to alienate anyone, pun intended, unlike many of the so-called debunkers, pseudo-skeptics, who dismiss the alien hypothesis out of hand. Again, caution is urged before jumping to conclusions either way. Dr. Greer has stated that 80% of UAP sightings probably relate to secretive Black Project technology, and that 90% of what you see in the media is nonsense. Greer is one of very few in the UAP arena I can take seriously. So much in the mainstream media, as with standard cosmology, is little more than spin and double talk today. Furthermore, there appears to be some common ground between the Disclosure Project and the electric universe. Once thought to be a near-perfect vacuum, of course, empty space turns out to be alive with plasmas and electromagnetism. This might provide some clues about the future of space travel, and perhaps alien technology, not least because gravity-only cosmology has failed demonstrably. Quote, "It is a mere question of time when men will succeed in attaching their machinery to the very wheelwork of nature." Close quote. Nikola Tesla. This patent application for a mass reduction device utilizes electromagnetic waves. Although it flies in the face of conventional wisdom, needless to say, it seems to have gone unnoticed for the most part. It has not been registered by an individual or business, but by the US Department of Navy. Read into that what you will. Paraphrasing, the paper states that the device works because we live in a plasma universe. Does this add weight to Greer's claims about electrogravitic technology? For the time being, I can only speculate as to why ET might want to visit us, maybe to read astrophysics textbooks and learn all about dark matter and dark energy, the mysterious stuff that dominates in standard cosmology, or perhaps to watch back episodes of Third Rock from the Sun. I'm really not sure which they would find the more amusing. First contact. We've all heard it. I'll believe in aliens when they land on the White House lawn. Two possible responses to this spring to mind. One, if Greer's claims are true, the deep state have already made contact, albeit covertly. And two, perhaps advanced aliens would be cautious about announcing themselves, much as anthropologists take great care when dealing with elemental tribes today. I guess there is also a third option, which would be a combination of the first two.